Wathi, Stoic discipline, and the marathon of humanity. Economic justice as the base layer of global health. Global health is not built in hospitals alone. It is built in systems of justice. In this article, I explore how economic justice forms the foundation of global health through the Economic Justice Token, EJT, guided by the Ngatia principle of Wathi, where vision and structure converge to transform societies. I also share how the Boston Marathon for Global Health 2027 symbolizes this philosophy. This is not just a race, it is a global movement. You do not have to travel to Boston to participate. You can train, prepare, and run wherever you are in the world, becoming part of a decentralized movement for health equity and human dignity. I invite you to read, reflect, and most importantly, participate. Let us run together, wherever we stand, and build global health from the roots of economic justice. Source of decay. Civilizations do not decay first in their hospitals. They decay in their systems of justice. Disease is often the last symptom of a deeper fracture, the fracture of economic dignity, where property cannot be secured, contracts cannot be trusted, and participation cannot be rewarded. The human body itself becomes the battlefield of invisible injustice. Global health, therefore, is not merely a medical enterprise. It is a moral architecture, and like every enduring architecture, it rests upon a foundation. That foundation is economic justice. The Economic Justice Token, EJT, emerges as a base layer protocol of civilization, an infrastructure not of currency alone, but of dignity itself. It is justice rendered into code, rights translated into ledger, and opportunity democratized through participation. Yet to understand the profound significance of EJT for global health, one must ascend beyond economics and enter the philosophical domain of Ngatia, particularly the principle of Wathi, the sacred convergence of spirit and matter symbolized by the compasses and the square. Wathi teaches that reality is constructed at the intersection of vision and structure. The square represents matter, the fixed geometry of resources, contracts, institutions, and bodily limitations. The compasses represent spirit, the expanding horizon of imagination, faith, and moral aspiration. Economic injustice occurs when the square suffocates the compasses, when material limitations dictate human destiny. But economic utopianism fails when the compasses float without the square, producing visions that never incarnate into systems. Economic justice, as embodied in EJT, represents Wathi in action. It is the compasses guiding the square, vision disciplining infrastructure, spirit commanding matter. Blockchain technology becomes the altar where this convergence occurs. Through decentralized registries, tokenized assets, and smart contracts, EJT converts invisible labor, undocumented land, and excluded participation into visible, tradable, and defendable forms of capital. Hernando de Soto's mysteries of capital are not merely economic puzzles. They are failures of Wathi. Assets exist without spiritual recognition. Value exists without structural incarnation. EJT restores the sacred alignment by transforming participation into property and engagement into equity. This transformation carries immediate consequences for global health. Disability-adjusted life years, dailies, the measurable currency of suffering and survival, are deeply sensitive to economic injustice. When a mother cannot access credit, her pregnancy becomes risk. When a community lacks land security, sanitation collapses. When labor cannot be monetized, nutrition deteriorates. Each unresolved property right is a pathology waiting to manifest. Each enforced contract is a preventative medicine. Economic justice, therefore, becomes a medical intervention. The ledger becomes a clinical instrument. The wallet becomes a health record of dignity. Stoic philosophy, surprisingly, converges with Ngatia through Wathi in profound harmony. The Stoics taught that human flourishing arises from mastery over what is within one's control while building rational order in the world beyond. For Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, discipline was not repression but alignment, aligning action with universal reason, logos. Stoicism insists that passion must be circumscribed by rational boundaries, much as Wathi teaches that the compasses must circumscribe desire to convert chaotic energy into productive force. Economic justice through EJT is Stoicism institutionalized. It replaces emotional protest with structural protocol. It channels outrage into architecture. Rather than reacting to inequality with temporary redistribution, EJT builds systems where fairness becomes self-executing. Smart contracts function as Stoic discipline encoded into law, agreements executed without emotional corruption. Decentralized governance mirrors Stoic citizenship, where individuals participate in shaping collective order while maintaining personal sovereignty. The Stoics believed that true freedom is achieved when individuals act according to rational virtue rather than external circumstance. EJT creates economic structures where individuals are rewarded for knowledge, participation, and contribution rather than inherited privilege. The token economy reflects Stoic ethics translated into financial infrastructure. Virtue becomes value, participation becomes property, and engagement becomes governance. Nowhere is this philosophical convergence more vividly expressed than in the Boston Marathon for Global Health 2027. At first glance, a marathon appears to be an athletic event, a physical test of endurance. But in the Ngatia Stoic synthesis, the marathon becomes a ritual enactment of Wathi itself. Running is the square, the disciplined engagement with matter. It is the body confronting gravity, fatigue, and time. It is the acceptance of biological limitation and material reality. Training schedules, pacing strategies, nutrition, and muscle endurance represent the rectification of the square, the discipline of truth, fairness, and structural integrity in action. Yet the marathon is equally the compasses. Every runner begins not with muscle, but with vision. The decision to run is a spiritual act, a declaration that one can transcend immediate discomfort in pursuit of a greater horizon. The runner imagines the finish line long before reaching it. Vision expands capacity. Faith battles fatigue. Spirit commands matter. When preparation and vision align, Wathi is realized. The marathon becomes the engineering of the human soul. Passion is circumscribed into disciplined training. Desire is contained into propulsion. Chaos becomes coherence. The runner becomes the living geometry of compasses and square. The Boston Marathon for Global Health extends this symbolism into planetary participation. It redefines geography itself. One need not stand physically in Boston to run Boston. The marathon becomes decentralized, mirroring blockchain architecture. Every runner anywhere in the world becomes a node in a global network of endurance. Participation replaces location. Intention replaces proximity. Community replaces centralization. This global participation mirrors the structure of EJT. Just as justice is no longer confined to courtrooms but distributed through blockchain, the marathon is no longer confined to a single city, but distributed through human movement across continents. A nurse in Nairobi, a student in Accra, a physician in Kingston, a researcher in Cambridge, and a farmer in Eldoret can train simultaneously, run simultaneously, and contribute simultaneously to the architecture of global health. Training itself becomes proof of work, a blockchain principle embodied in muscle and discipline. Each mile logged is a block added to the ledger of endurance. Each completed training cycle contributes to consensus, the shared recognition that transformation is occurring. Race completion becomes finality, the irreversible confirmation that spirit has governed matter. In this way, the marathon becomes an educational and spiritual extension of Actuate Academy. It teaches that economic justice, like endurance running, cannot be outsourced. It must be cultivated daily through disciplined participation. It demonstrates that global health cannot be delivered solely through hospitals and aid organizations. It must be produced through empowered communities capable of generating their own economic infrastructure. The hashtag Actuate Africa Challenge and the decentralized justice movement illustrate how participation becomes currency. A student submitting an innovation proposal, a lawyer offering legal education, or a community organizer designing tokenized land rights are all participating in the same marathon of civilization. Each action becomes a stride toward equity. Each token earned becomes a mile of dignity gained. The Boston Marathon for global health thus becomes a ceremonial squaring of the circle. It is the ancient quest to make the square of labor, wealth, and physical effort reflect the circle of spirit, vision, and collective destiny. Runners expand their physical square, their endurance capacity, to house the immensity of their moral vision, a world where economic justice eliminates preventable disease. Participation from anywhere in the world reinforces the philosophical truth of Wathi. The now is the point of generation. Wherever a runner stands becomes Boston. Wherever economic dignity is built becomes global health infrastructure. The sacred intersection is not geographic, but existential, the place where vision becomes structure and spirit becomes policy. EJT provides the financial and legal compasses. The marathon provides the physical and communal square. Together, they create a living architecture of dignity, a civilization where justice is measurable not merely in currency, but in years of healthy life restored. The Stoics would recognize this movement as the rational ordering of society according to virtue. Ngatia would recognize it as Mwenyaga, the moment when spirit reigns over matter without abolishing it. George Gilder might describe it as the transformation of information into life itself, where knowledge encoded in blockchain and discipline encoded in human endurance generate new forms of prosperity. Economic justice is not charity. It is infrastructure. It is not redistribution of scarcity, but multiplication of participation. It is the base layer upon which the cathedral of global health must stand. And so the call is simple yet profound. Train where you are. Run where you are. Build justice where you stand. Participate in the marathon not merely as an athlete, but as an architect of dignity. For when millions run in distributed unity, they do more than cross finish lines. They redraw the blueprint of civilization itself in that convergence, where compasses guide the square, where discipline channels vision, where tokens encode justice, and where runners encircle the globe. Global health ceases to be a distant aspiration. It becomes a living system, sustained by participation, animated by spirit, and anchored in the unbreakable geometry of economic justice. More on how to participate in the marathon, please visit https://actuate.bio/Boston 2027.